The Ethiopian government declared a state of emergency after more than a year of unrest in Oromia and Amhara regions. Ethiopia has accused foreign enemies of arming, training and financing groups it blames for a wave of unrest in regions around the capital Addis Ababa. Protesters from the majority Oromo and the Amhara ethnic groups say they are marginalized by the minority Tigray-led government, which they accuse of monopolizing power and controlling the economy. In our Pretoria studios, we are joined by Prof Mammo Muchie, who is a research chair in innovation studies from Tshwane University of Technology. Professor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, the Ethiopian government declared a state of emergency there, Professor. What are the implications of this method of control over the people of Ethiopia? Will this not fuel further unrest, do you think?
Yes. They declared a state of emergency and they created what they called command posts. These are, it's like a military dictatorship where this command post recruits have the freedom to investigate, to stop and search whatever citizens have, especially young people. As a result, something like 2,000 young people are now arrested. And what they often do, what they complain, what I read, is that they take their telephones, their mobile phones, they even take their money, and a lot of young people are scared. And this is a very difficult situation. Mm-hmm. This is not what the government should have done. What the government should have done was, when there is this massive protest, they should have tried to listen to the people and find a way to accommodate a kind of route of reconciliation, and dialogue. That route should have been followed, mm-hmm. not the route of state of emergency.
Yes.
And they use Irecha for the state of emergency.
I mean, what is Irecha, Professor?
Irecha is the Thanksgiving celebration that the Oromo people use annually. It's a spiritual day. It's a day to celebrate and reach God by the people of Oromo. Mm-hmm. That's the day when nobody should have been killed.
How many people were killed on that particular day now? Where does the tally stand now?
Well, the social media put it nearly 800 people. The government claimed it's 55. But in my view, on a spiritual day, on a Thanksgiving day, there should have been no person should be killed. Mm-hmm. And there was no reason to have done it. Why did it happen? The government sent troops. There was army. It was not necessary to send an army. Even if the people protest there, or whatever they say, in other words, they may say to God, on our Thanksgiving, we are in this situation, help us or something. They would have said things like that. They prayed. But even if they do that, they will not be violent. They will not do anything criminal. Therefore, there was no reason whatsoever for any Oromo person to have been killed in Bishoftu, as it has been taken. And I think this is, again, the government's insecurity creating more problems. And then from that problem of Irecha, they went to another one, which is a state of emergency, and creating command posts, which is like a military dictatorship, which means that almost like me, myself, I can't communicate with my family now. Mm-hmm. I call them, the phone gets interrupted. Everything is under control, which is extraordinary. I've never seen such a situation in my life. I don't know why they are doing this to Ethiopia. Why? Mm-hmm.
So there's even a clampdown on social media, a clampdown on telecommunications. And in your view, Professor, did you think that the security forces violate the international laws or the guidelines that they needed to follow with the use of force in Irecha?
I think it's a great violation of international law and human rights violation, And it's not also, above all, it is not the way you could handle the protests in Ethiopia. This is not the way to have done it. They could have done it in a different way. They could have been much more receptive, much more open, much more accommodative, and they could have used traditional even elders, others, the churches, many things they could have used. More humane approaches could have been used, not this militaristic approach. And I think now, I mean, Amnesty International, all these international human rights organizations are all protesting very strongly, saying that this is not good. They are saying that. So it's certainly a violation. I mean, it is a violation for none of us to have any communication with our family. What does it mean? I mean, why do you have to do this in order to prevent the protests from happening? I mean, that's not the best way to do, and arrest all these young people. That's not the way to do it.
Now, Ethiopia has got some key allies like the US, even the UK, and even the EU. What should they do to ensure that there's stability in the country and protect the human rights of Ethiopians, Professor?
Do you know what these international organizations, countries have done? Remember, you know, Ethiopia is one of the countries that has housed something like 800,000 refugees. And now they have been giving government money to see if they could set up some kind of activity for these migrants to have jobs. So I don't know how many millions, but millions have been given to the Ethiopian government. So they are very actively engaged. The reason is because they want to prevent refugees flowing to Europe. So what do? They accumulate money, they allied with each other to try to see if they could make Ethiopia the hub for the migration zone of the world. But in Ethiopia, you have nearly 20 million or so young people who have no jobs. They are unemployed. Young people are very, very high. And you then are creating situations like this because you want to solve your problem, the European problem, and impose it on Ethiopia. I think we have a big problem with the organized hypocrisy of the Western powers. For me, at least, is a big problem. If they are consistent now, when this kind of command post, this kind of emergency law, and this kind of military kind of action is imposed on the country, they should be the first to say, because they say they stand for human rights, they stand for all kinds of things. They should be the ones that should come out and speak out that they are not. And I, like you, for example, all of you here, South Africa and others, to actually say this is wrong. They should all not be supporting this government to continue as it is, when in actual fact it's actually violating the rights of its citizens and its people, and arresting all these young people, which is very good because they use internet, they use a mobile phone. It's incredible. It's an incredible situation. I've never seen and heard such thing happening, ever. Never expected it will ever happen.
Professor, just briefly in closing, do you think that we will see a political solution to the problems in Ethiopia?
I think the solution is, if this government, trust me, if this government, any government actually in Africa, the best thing they should leave is arranging the best transition for a self-sustainable system for the people to pass on power. That is, I mean, there should be a transition now. They have been there for 25 years. They said, in two elections, they said, for the first one, the previous one, they said 99.9% of the people with them. And I think only one person was an opposition in the parliament. Now they had 100% election. They say 100% in parliament. It can't go on like this. This is a lie. I mean, look at what happened. If they had 100% parliamentarians, why do the people protest now across the whole of, as you say, Oromia, everywhere? Why also divide people? You see, why do that? So the best thing is, if this government sincerely is for the country and for the people, if they genuinely want to demonstrate for all of us to recognize and to even respect them, the best thing they should do is arrange a proper transition, a sustainable transition where Ethiopia remains peaceful and it has a very good development growing. It was really a development, it become very developmental. The economy was really trying to catch up and grow. And they should be thinking like that. How do we preserve this? Not by creating destructive approaches and militaristic approaches, but by trying to say, we have been there for 25 years, how can we make a transition? And how do we arrange it? How could we play the role? And then they would be respected, and they would be said, and history will remember them for doing this. I like to appeal to the government to not go through this route. Remove this command post, remove the state of emergency, move into a proper transition, make good arrangements where the people believe in them and they trust them, and therefore the transition can happen. I think something like that will happen, and I like also the whole world, all their supporters, the Europeans, UK, America, all of them, to actually ask them to do this. And
yes.
Also here in South Africa, our brothers here and sisters here in South Africa, you should also demand that you cannot go on doing it. Whatever you say about South Africa, elections here are done properly, trust me. Whatever you say, whatever criticisms you may have. Mm-hmm. And in Ethiopia, it's not done properly.
Yes,
and
Professor?
It should stop.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Pretoria studios, Professor.
Thank you so much also. Thank you for inviting me.
That was Professor Mammo Muchie. He is the Research Chair in Innovation Studies from the Tshwane University of Technology. He's also an Ethiopian citizen, a very concerned Ethiopian citizen.